Good morning, everybody. My name is Justin. I am so glad you're here. We are already at the end of July already, which summer's wrapping up. Seems like every year it goes faster and faster. Thank you, Jason. Every year it seems like it goes faster and faster, and especially for our family, July is a bit more full than other months because we have 2 July birthdays because our anniversary is in October. So we have our kids. Some of you are going to get that in a few minutes. So our kids, every summer, every birthday, kind of the same thing. I will go to my wife, Rachel, and I'll be like, hey, we should have a birthday party for X number of kid. I forget their names sometimes because there's so many. But we should have a birthday party for them. And she'll be like, it's a lot of work and it's going to cost money. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds like we need to do it though. These are moments that we want to cherish with our kids. We need to have a birthday party. And she's like, okay, great. And then I don't do anything to help her for a few weeks. And then I come back. It's a great plan. We've developed it over 12 years. It's awesome. Then I come back in about a week before the party, and I'm like, all right, how are we doing? What do we need to do? And she's like, well, here's the guest list, and here's the cost. And then I'm like, that's great. That cost way too much, and we get in a fight about it. And then I'm like, you did all the work. I'm being an idiot. I should change this. And we have a great party. And parties are always fun, but no matter what the party is, no matter which kid it is, even parties that you have, retirement, engagement, weddings, at some point as you're planning the party, you have to establish these are the people who are invited, and by default, these are the people who are not invited. Right? At some point, it doesn't mean we hate you and we're angry at you. It just means at some point, realistically, there's a time, and all of us, we can all agree, it doesn't make you a monster. At some point, there's hey, this is the circle of people we're inviting, and by default, other people are not invited. Right? These are the people that we actually do love, but this is the circle that we have these people here, and it's always a hard thing, right? Because especially for myself, I'm well, I just want everyone to come. I don't want to pay for everyone to eat, but I want everyone to be there and have a good time with us. So yes, invite them, but at some point you have to stop and say, we have some capacity. Whether it's physical space, whether it's budget, whether it's relational abilities, some point you have to say, these are the people who are in the circle of the invitation. Those are the people who are outside the circle of our invitation. And that's hard, but you know what's harder than trying to decide who's in, who's out? Is being the one who's out. Right? And before social media, it wasn't as bad because you would kind of hear word of mouth. They had a party, but now you can go online and see literally everyone that was at the party. And you realize pretty quick, I thought we're not like that. And it's easy to get your feelings hurt a little bit. We've all been there, right? I thought I was part of this group. Actually, I'm not as close. I'm not in that group of people. Because there's reality for all of us in culture, and this is some of its necessity. It's not even a bad thing. Is we have to draw circles around groups of people in our lives. I have a circle around my family. And there's responsibilities and there's privileges within my family, my friends, my social circles. I have circles around people. It's not even a bad thing. All of us, even a larger scale, depending on where you're from. I'm from New England, right? So if I hear someone say wicked or ka, instantly I know we're part of the same circle. We grew up in the promised land together, right? It's not actually, it snows too much up there. But there's circles, even us, where we live in the Raleigh area, there's circles around things like sports. We probably have some Duke fans here today. No? Okay, that's fine. We probably have some Carolina fans today. We have some NC State fans here today. Now here's the reality. Nothing connected you other than you wear the same color. We sit on the couch and we cheer, we yell at the TV at the same time for the same people. But those are circles of people that you surround yourself with. And even larger, there's things like political groups, where you're from, and ethnicity and gender. There's so many ways that we circle people up. And circles are not bad. They actually can be really helpful. With my family, it's really clear who's in my family and who's not. Right? I'm not going to impose the same responsibilities on other children that my children have because they're not part of my family. They're not part of my family circle. The issue is that circles can become dangerous or even destructive when I draw a circle, I put a barrier around a group of people, and now these people who are in my group have more value and dignity than people outside my group. These people who are in my group are good and right and valuable. And if you're outside of my group, we don't always say it, but this deep-seated, psychological, natural thing is you're actually kind of less than if you're outside my group. And we're kind of even predisposed in ways to operate like this. Even if you consume your news source of choice enough, you start to circle up in your mind who's like you and who's not like you. And somehow it's not that we just have different opinions or different values. Somehow it's that they're bad. Somehow it's that they're wrong. Somehow it's that we create circles, and we even extend this even into religious things. Now, this can be tense for some of us to talk about. Some of us you've experienced this, of being an other, being an outsider, being in the out group, and it's painful. But this is why we're talking about it, is because we as followers of the way of Jesus have to be the people that can connect with those outside of our circles and make room for them inside our circles. Because culturally, nobody else is really doing it. Like, we're losing the ability to disagree with someone and still value them as a human being. Still offer them dignity. See, and God came in the flesh as a person, Jesus, to demonstrate what God was like and who God was for and who's welcome in God's circles. And the reality is, Jesus didn't just come and teach about God, he was God. And Jesus demonstrated God's love, not just through how he lived. He did that, but also through whom he chose to live with, the people he brought into his circle, the people he made room for, that the religious leaders and even the people who were the outsiders are going, wait, are you sure? Like, the religious leaders, if you read through the life of Jesus, there was not a question if God was using him or not. They knew God was using Jesus. The question they constantly were asking is, how can someone God uses be with those people? How can someone that God uses make room for those people? And that's why over the next several weeks, we're going to be a series called Make Room, where we are going to challenge, encourage, push you to literally make room for people in your circles. And be willing to expand your circles. See, because Jesus lived in such a way, and the way of Jesus was so radical that they were constantly asking, how are these people welcomed in God's circle? See, because even today we're still kind of asking that question, but if you go back to the ancient times that Jesus lived, one of the questions the religious leaders were constantly asking, they were trying to figure out, they said it in so many different ways, but one of the questions at the core was this question, is who is welcomed in God's circle? Like, who gets to come in, who has to stay out? And they had all sorts of ideas and things that they developed around. It's like one question is, are children welcome in God's circle? Like, children, especially in ancient times, like, they can't do anything for you. They're kind of worthless until they reach a certain age. Like, are they okay to come in? Are women welcomed in God's circles? Because again, women, you go in a historical context in which Jesus, like, women were viewed as property. And now they can come in and Jesus, you're going to interact with women on like this equal playing field? Like, you're going to teach women the scriptures? This is insane. How about people with disabilities? Are people with disabilities, are they welcomed into God's circle? Because the religious leaders had all these ideas about how God was punishing people through their physical ailments, and they had these giant questions about how come Jesus is with these people. And for us, I think, like, we can look back and we can see that they were asking these questions, and they weren't the first ones and they weren't the last, because for us, we're still asking this. We're still trying to figure this out. We might put it a little differently, but I'd say even to save some time and save some slides, is our blank people welcome in God's circle. Now, you can put anything you want in that blank. You can put socioeconomic status, you can put sexuality, you can put marital status, you can put what their beliefs are, you can put income, like whatever you would put, whoever you would, and like, real talk, we don't like to say this too much because, like, we know we can't say it out loud, but whoever the other is for you. Whoever the them is, whoever the enemy is. It's funny, Jesus talked about praying for your enemies, and we just want to cancel our enemies. We want to fight fire with fire, and Jesus says, that's not my way. But who are you putting in this blank? And as a church as a whole, I think we're in a pivotal time, because there's people that get put in this blank that feel as though heaven and God is not even an option for them. And not because of the teachings of Jesus, but because of the culture of the church. of circling up and saying, hey, these people all agree with me. These people are all in with me. They're all members of my group. Great. If you don't agree with me, figure out your stuff. Hopefully, maybe you can get in sometime. And this was the tension for Jesus, because again, as he went throughout his life, he was criticized not primarily for what he taught, but for who he associated with. And Jesus wanted to answer this question for all the people, the religious leaders and the sinners and the people in the synagogues and the temples and the people who would be fearful to even enter a situation like that. Jesus wanted to not just show through what he taught, but through who he lived with. And he told stories about this, and he taught about this. And one of the most famous teachings on this is found in Luke 15. If you have a Bible, love for you to open it and follow along with me. If you don't have one, you can tap the disc in front of you. There'll be message notes there. You can follow along. But Luke 15, Luke is writing this as a collection of stories about who Jesus is, what he values, what he taught. And Luke starts the chapter 15 in this way. It says, now the tax collectors and sinners were all gathering around to hear Jesus. But the Pharisees, the teachers of the law, the religious people muttered, this man welcomes sinners and eats with them. And then Jesus told them this parable. And he goes on to tell really three parables. And the thing, again, the issue they're having is not what is Jesus teaching, is how could a Messiah, how could the one who's supposed to save us from, really they thought a political Roman freedom, but really it's a spiritual freedom over the internal sins that we all have. How could a Messiah treat people like this? How are these people, the sinners and tax collectors, like how are they welcomed in God's circle? And Jesus tells three parables. The first parable is about a person who loses a sheep. He has 100, loses one, goes out and finds one. He doesn't get angry at the one sheep. He doesn't cancel it. He doesn't make it do it. He goes out and searches, finds a sheep, and celebrates that the lost sheep was found. He goes back and celebrates with everybody. The second parable is a woman who loses a coin, something valuable, and she doesn't get angry at the thing that's lost. She doesn't go online and post on Facebook about her stupid coin that she lost. She goes and she searches out to find the coin and then brings it back and celebrates with people all around her. And the third parable, it shifts a little bit because it's getting more emotional. It's getting more powerful. It's getting more like you feel it differently. And Jesus tells the third parable this way. He says, there was a man who had two sons. And the younger one said to his father, Father, give me my share of the estate. So he divided his property between them. Essentially, he's saying, Dad, I want the stuff that you have. When you die, I'm going to get this. So can we expedite that process? I get all your stuff right now. So the father divided the property between them. And not long after that, shocking turn of events, the younger son got together all he had and set off for a distant country where he squandered his wealth on wild living. Now, it doesn't say how old he is, but I would bet he wasn't 25 yet. Because he does what every young adult would do, right? You don't have that prefrontal cortex yet? Right? Like you think about it. If I gave you a pile of money at 19, what would you do with it? Be honest. Some of you are like, no, I would give it to the church. Maybe. I wouldn't probably, right? You're going to do what any young adult would do. You're going to go and spend it on wild living. You're going to live it up. You're going to have fun. You're going to go enjoy it. You're going to do all the things. And the first two parables that Jesus is teaching, they make sense. You lose a sheep, you go, you get it, you bring it back. You lose a coin, you go, you get it, you bring it back. And a parable is a made-up story to illustrate a true point. Now, this third parable is different because this guy didn't accidentally get to where he got to. The sheep are dumb. They just wander off. Coins just fall off tables. They just roll away, they roll under, it just is naturally what's happening. And this third parable hits different because the son didn't get there accidentally. He willfully chose all these things. He said, Dad, I don't want relationship with you. I just want what's mine. And now I'm going to go out, I'm going to act and do things in ways that are really not that good, and you wouldn't approve. He went far away because he didn't want his dad to know what's going on. And if we're honest, as you read this parable, if you're familiar with this parable, you're like, well, yeah, you play stupid games, you get stupid prizes. Right? You choose bad things, bad things are going to happen to you. And Jesus goes on and says, when he spent everything, there was a severe famine in the whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen in that country who sent him out to feed his pigs in the fields. Now, again, for a lot of us, if we are honest, like that is, like if I'm honest, I'll just speak for myself. Like that's kind of my reaction. Like, yeah, dude, like you weren't wise. Right? Like you weren't disciplined. You just need to figure your stuff out. If you just figured it out, then you wouldn't be in the situation. You'd be fine. If you're, honestly, like this is just what happens. But that's not the way Jesus tells the story. This guy is in a situation, he never thought he'd get there. He thought he had total freedom. But actually his freedom and his choices led him to bondage. And that's the reality for so many is if we were honest, how many times in our life did we practice total freedom only to realize we were just enslaving ourselves to something else? And he gets stuck. And then, going on in verse 16, it says, he longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. The guy is in a bad spot. He has messed his life up. He's starving. But then when he came to his senses, he said, how many of my father's hired servants have food to spare? Here I am starving to death. He didn't care about his dad as long as things were good. Things seemed fine. Things are great. It's exciting. And then he realized, man, when you run out of the money, like all my friends run out on me and I don't have anything. And I realized, like my dad is kind of loaded. My dad kind of take care of me. So I'm going to set out. He's talking to himself. I'm going to set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I've sinned against heaven, against you. I'm no longer to be called your son. So make me like one of your hired servants. And I think this is our response a lot of times, even how we interact with church, interact with God, is because of decisions that I've made, I'm probably not really welcome. I just need to kind of come and be on the periphery of the church, be on the periphery of relationships, be on God's periphery a little bit. So he gets up and he goes to his father, but while he was still a long way off, his father saw him, was filled with compassion for him, and he ran to his son and threw his arms around him and kissed him. I think one of the dangers with us, or if people like me, if we grew up in churches, we know these stories. And we're like, well, yeah, that's how the story goes. We have it, like, this is like one of our bangers. Like we go back to this passage again and again and again. And it's like, yeah, we all know the prodigal son. Like the reality is the original audience would have been like a record scratch. Like, wait, what? Like this dude blew it. And if you've ever been around pigs, like pigs are not clean. Pigs are like he sees him afar. He could probably smell him from a far way off. That's how he knew he was coming. And he sees him. He's not rolling back on some animal like, Dad, check it out. I invested your money in some whatever cryptocurrency. I'm like rolling back like Dad, things are great. Check out my entourage. Like he's coming back broken and dirty and disgusting. And the father sees him, sees all of the mess of him, and he gets up and he runs to him and he throws his arms around him and he kisses him. He didn't wait to see what he was going to say. He didn't wait to see like, hey, are you sorry? Like, how'd that work out for you? Like, let's give it a minute. I want you to prove that you're actually sorry. I want you to show, you remember how much money I gave you? The dad's not mad. See, because the father's affection, and here's right, even this passage, it's not talking about a father. This passage Jesus is talking about, this is the heart of God the Father. And even this is the same for you and for me. It says the Father's affection was not based on his performance. But his embrace also was not determined or based on his performance. And this is where you see the overwhelming, never-ending, like unreal love of God. And this is even for myself. Like this is where I've seen this in my life. Like where I have messed it up, where I have chosen the wrong thing willfully, where I have treated God more like a cosmic genie of like, God, if you just give me the things that I want, then I'll be good with you. And God has come again and again and again in my direction to offer me his love. And maybe this is your story too. Like I was a mess, you were a mess. And as we're thinking of like, who is welcomed in God's circle? Who does God make room for? Does he make room for sons who've totally messed up their life? So does he make room for daughters who have chosen the wrong thing, people who have blown it, that people have secrets, that people have bondage, people who are proud, people who pretend they have it all together, but they're dying inside, but they come into church and they're like, yeah, it's great. So I think sometimes the reason we don't welcome other people into our circles is because we don't understand that God has welcomed us fully into his. And if I can't embrace and sit in the love that God has for me, how am I ever going to extend it to anybody else? You've probably heard the phrase like hurt people hurt people. Well, loved people love people. And for us, if we have an issue loving people, it's not really with them. This is more for us. This is where we, even as believers, we need to cultivate what one theologian calls the will to embrace. Meaning, we embrace first. We welcome first. We connect first. And it doesn't mean that theology doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that decisions and lifestyle and consequences don't matter. It does not mean any of those things. It means at the very forefront, we need to embrace people as the image bearers of the Almighty God. Can I tell you, when you embrace people as dignified and holy, there's always more time for other conversations. I think the issue is for myself and for us collectively as a church culture is we really love to like make sure people got all their stuff figured out first. And it's kind of like, yeah, like I have a hug for you, but can you answer my questionnaire first? Can I make sure that you're like let's talk about this thing with your marriage. Let's talk about this thing with your, like we try to figure out all different ways and it just doesn't work. As one writer, he's a writer and he's a professor, put it this way, he said, no conversations about sin, purity, or holiness can come or begin until human dignity has been secured beyond all question or doubt. It's kind of cliche, but you've heard it said, like people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Again, and I want to be really clear. This is not saying, again, it's not saying that theology does not matter. It's not saying that doctrine and teaching and lifestyle and practicing, like actually having fruit to your faith is not saying none of those things matter. Those things absolutely matter, but they are secondary if I want to have influence in someone's life. When we find ourselves in places where we're like, well, I just want to make sure you know where I stand on this thing. Like, how about you just sit down and give them a hug first? How about you just embrace them first? And even for us, as a 7 Marks church, Mark 6 of a follower of Jesus, we proclaim Jesus. It's very difficult to proclaim Jesus to people that you're not willing to embrace. People you won't make room for. Now, I want to be really clear about this. Even we're not talking about unhealthy or toxic or even abusive relationships. That's not what this passage is talking about at all. This is the Father and the Son. The Son is not actively hurting and abusing the Father. I'm not saying in any way, I want to be so clear to be not misunderstood. It doesn't mean you go back to the abusive, toxic person and go, well, I just am supposed to embrace you. Like, no. All about safety, all about clarity, all about good boundaries, all about distancing yourself from unhealthy, toxic people. But that's not what this passage is about. This is about people in your life and in my life who have blown it, who have chosen the wrong thing, and their life is a mess. And instead of saying, hey, clean yourself up, and then you can come over, we say, hey, just come over. Just come over. Just be here with us. And this is not just for people who are close to God. If you look back at the passage, verse 20, it says, while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. How are we viewing people who are still a far way off from God? How are we making room for them? See, but this response from the Father is too good to be true. So the Son goes into his I'm sorry speech, and he starts again. In verse 21, it says, the Son said to him, Father, I've sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Again, we get stuck thinking that our actions impact our identity and our embrace from the Father. That's not true. For some of us, we think that God merely tolerates us. I think what's just really hard is some of us like, just real talk, your dad sucks. And you think that your heavenly Father is like your dad. Again, this story is not about some fictitious father. Jesus is telling the story about this is what God is like. He wants us to feel it. And I know so many people that have dysfunctional and difficult relationships with their dad, and they put that onto God, and they go, if my dad was like this, then God must be, I can't even sing about God being a father because I can't, like that is hurt. And I am so sorry. But that's not your loving Heavenly Father. That's not what he is saying here. He's apologizing. The son is apologizing. The father's going, no, would you stop? I want to embrace you. I want to love you. And then he goes on, he says, the father tells his servants, quick, bring the best robe and put it on him and put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. This dude was so busted up, he wasn't even wearing shoes. It's like, give him all this stuff and then bring the fatted calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate, because this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. So they began to celebrate. He celebrated the son returning home right away. It wasn't put him on a 6-week plan and see if he's really sorry. It wasn't, hey, give him a bath. It's like, y'all, we are going to have a party. Because this son who chose the wrong thing, this son who acted in hurt ways and hurt people, this son who chose dysfunction and toxic, this son who's a mess, he turned to me. He came back. And there is nothing stopping me from embracing him. So we're going to party. And how could we not party? Because my boy's back. Again, for some of you, like, you're talking back a little bit because you've experienced that. You have felt that. And I would bet you felt it from a loving Heavenly Father, but you also felt it from a loving follower of Jesus. That they made room for you in their life, to walk along life with them, to embrace you and with all your mess and all your dysfunction and say, hey, I am here for you. I'm going to walk with you through all of this stuff. I tell you, church, that's what we get to do. That's why we're talking about making room for people in our community, making room in our circles, because we get to walk alongside with people. And it's really easy to read a passage and be like, yeah, like that sounds great, but it's really messy to like actually start doing it with somebody. They actually have a little bit, their mess kind of shows a little bit, and you're like, oh man. But the embrace of a follower of Jesus, I think more is often, oh man, you too? Like you too? Like you, oh no way. You're broken too? Like, I don't know why we're so surprised. I think there's like two kinds of people in the world. There's broken people and there's liars, right? But somehow we keep thinking we're the only ones. And that actually, I would say that's more of a lie that we can easily embrace and believe, that we're the only ones. No one else struggled, no one else. And God is saying, come back, let me embrace you, and we're going to celebrate. And everyone at that party would know this dude's a fool. Like everybody at the party is looking like, the younger brother, really? Like he's back, we're throwing a party for him, and the dad's like, yeah, do you see how much I love him? Do you see how good I am? It's not about the son, it's about the father. You see that because the second brother comes back in. Jesus finishes up this parable. It says the older brother became angry and refused to go in. He would not embrace his brother. He would not welcome his brother into his circle. He said, I'm going to refuse to go in. And that's what I love about this story is, so the father went out and pleaded with him. You see, the father is always active. God is always active in moving in our direction. You can go back to the very first story in all the scriptures of Adam and Eve messing everything up, and God goes to them and says, hey, where are you guys at? The father goes and he pleads with him, and he answers, Father, look, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. That you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends, but this son of yours who squandered your property with prostitutes comes home and you killed the fattened calf for him. Like, Dad, this does not make sense. Dad, I'm so good. Dad, don't you see? Like, Dad, doesn't my identity hinge on my performance for you? The father says, my son, you're always with me and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad because this brother of yours was dead and is alive. He was lost and is found. The thing I love about this story is that the father responds to both sons in love. I think this story is not about the son, it's about the father. Now, if you've heard this But for a general application, when I've heard this in my history, is like they will go and like, hey, which son do you associate with? Which for me, it's like depends on the day, right? Like I'm either son, but what I want to draw us to and even focus our attention to for the next several weeks is all the way back in verse 1. Where it says this, it says, now the tax collectors and sinners were all gathered around to hear Jesus, but the Pharisees and the teachers of the law muttered, this man welcomes sinners and eats with them. See, Jesus was criticized for who he sat with, not simply what he was teaching. My question for us is, who are you making room for? Like, who are you providing space for? Who are you, like, literally sitting down and eating a meal with? Because, again, it's really easy for us to go, hey, hundreds of people in our church, and we're going to say, yeah, we want to be for everybody. You can come in, and you can sit somewhere in this big room, maybe not near, but you can sit somewhere here. You can have a seat in our church's auditorium, but you can't really have a seat at my dinner table. That's been an issue with the church for decades and generations, and some of you have experienced that. And so Jesus is going back and he is sitting down, he's eating with people, and the religious leaders, and the issue they had was not what he taught. It was his dinner guests. Because even in the first century, the time where Jesus was, like you would, and it's not just with the Jews and Jesus, the religious people, it was all different cultures. There's different people you could eat with and couldn't eat with. And it was kind of like the cool kid table for high school kind of mentality of whoever you were surrounded yourself with that elevated your status or decreased your status. And they're looking going, Jesus, how can you sit and eat with these people? And this is where we get the chance to open up and say, hey, who can we make room for? Who can we invite to a table like Jesus did? How can we embrace people? Because God makes room for people who are far from him. And if we are going to follow the way of Jesus, it would require we do the same. Sometimes we think sharing our faith or proclaiming Jesus is incredibly intimidating and we're not sure about it. And we're like, well, I have to know all these things. It's like a lot of times it starts with just opening up your house and hosting somebody. Just being willing to go out to lunch with a coworker and just ask them a question, hear about their story. And that's one of my favorite questions is, so tell me more about that. Just tell me more about that. Just build relationship, embrace people, even if they disagree with you, especially if they disagree with you. Like, because so many people, like, we have this idea of what Christians should be like and what we should stand for and not stand for, all things. Like, and it will boggle someone's mind for you to be like, yeah, I follow Jesus on that, but I'd rather hear what you think about that because we disagree, but I just want to understand. I want to embrace you and talk to you. Again, it's not the theology and doctrine and all those things don't matter. They absolutely matter. But first, primary is I will embrace you. And through that, we follow the way of Jesus because Jesus demonstrated God's love, not only through how he lived, but through whom he chose to live with. We got to make room. This is one of the things that I love about our church is seeing people who, they're aligning their lives with this. Even yesterday, we had a fantastic event. One of our partners, Foster Closet, hosted an event here. They had almost over 40 families who are actively saying yes to fostering kids. Over 100 kids here getting gifts and getting loved on and getting resources. And these people are literally saying, I will make room in my house, in my heart for these children who need somewhere to stay. I love seeing that happen. I love hearing about people going and serving at Raleigh Dream Center and making meals and serving meals on Tuesday nights for people out experiencing homelessness and saying, we love you, we are for you. And we're not doing a theological questionnaire to see if you can eat. We're just welcoming you in, embracing you. And because that is the heart of God. That is the Christian response, is to embrace people. So we started today with the question, are blank welcomed in God's circle? Are people who messed up, are people who've ruined everything, are they welcomed in God's circle? I think for some of us, like, we need to really grapple and wrestle, like, am I welcome in God's circle? Yeah, I know that you have that thing, that hidden thing that you haven't talked to anybody about and you're ashamed of it, embarrassed about it, and you're just like, yeah, but if anyone knew, can I tell you, like, God knows everything. Scripture would teach that while we were still sinners, while we were actively choosing rebellion against God, God died for us, period. And if God knows everything and he still runs in your direction and embraces you, like, why are you removing yourself from God's embrace? Like, who are you to push off the loving embrace of a heavenly Father and say, no, God, you don't know. If you only knew, he does. I think the better question for us to really grapple and hold on to is, what kind of Father is inviting us into his circle? Because when I fully understand this, the natural response is to offer embrace to people around me. The natural response would be to make room for people around me, to give grace to people around me. Over the next couple of weeks, this is what we're going to do. We're going to talk about how we can make room for people who are far off from God, people who've been in the church and playing the game and figuring it out and pretending like you're welcome here too. We're going to make room for you. I'd encourage you to start looking at your calendar, looking at your schedule, looking at your life and figure out, where can I make room? Could it be lunch with a coworker where I just talk to them? Mondays are a great time because you know what you can do? You can ask them about their weekend. And then they ask you about your weekend. You know what you say? Say it was a great week. I did some house projects. Man, I went to church. It was good. Message was okay. He's kind of new at our church. But you know what? It was great. Worship was awesome. Tell me about your weekend. And you're not like twisting their arm. You just say, hey, like I'm a follower of Jesus. It's a normal thing. I'm going to tell you about my weekend. Maybe it's making room for some moms in your community just to get connected and talk to them. Maybe it's a walking club. Maybe it's you get around some people who are more in a season of life where they don't have kids around the house and they're kind of alone. And you're like, how can I make room for these people? Like literally the people right around you. How can you make room for them? Collectively as a church, we're going to start a way to make room for people in September. We're going to start a ministry called Alpha here at 7 Marks. Now, Alpha is all about creating a space for people to come in who are exploring faith, who are curious about faith, people who follow Jesus for years, but are like, yeah, but I still have so many big questions. Like, Alpha is the place for that. And what I love about the model of what we're doing is we're creating physical spaces to go, hey, come have a meal, a free meal on us. Hang out. We're going to watch a video talking about truth about the Christian faith, and then we're going to sit down like respectful, loving people, and we're going to just talk about it and just say, hey, what did you think about that video? And you know what? If they say it was all dumb and I don't agree with any of it, you know what we're going to say? Hey, thanks for sharing your opinion. We still love you so much. Because we're not strong-arming anyone into following Jesus. We're not strong-arming anyone. Even the story, the son came to his senses. We're praying that the Holy Spirit will work in people's lives where they will come to their senses and we will have a place for them. I want to encourage you, if you're interested in that, whether it's being part of it and going through it with us, or you're interested in helping with it, you can scan the QR code. We're going to hand out cards the next several weeks where you can begin thinking about how you can make room and partner with us as we make room. Where we want Alpha to be the way. If you have someone in your life that's trying to figure out faith, you go, you know what? You should come with me to Alpha. We're going to have good food. We'll have some conversation. You're going to meet some interesting people. And we're just going to grow and connect. But the first thing, even if you look at the story again, the father sees the son from far off and he's not filled with anger towards him. He's not filled with relief. He's filled with compassion. And that's what I would love for our church. I'd love for me to be filled with compassion for people, not canceling people, not ignoring people, not frustrated with them. They could just figure out, I can't believe, I'd never, well, guess what? They're still there and we can still love them, or you can choose to cancel them. I'm going to try to choose to love them. You got to be filled with compassion. The way to do that, I believe, is through taking them in your prayer time to God. To pray. And even, here's the deal. You can even pray, God, I don't get it. And they just make me so angry. I don't think you're angry at them. I'm not really sure. Maybe you are angry at them, but I'm angry at them. I don't feel like that's like Jesus. So help me have a soft heart towards whoever the other people are in your life. Begin to fill your heart with compassion. As you leave, you're going to get this card today. It has 4 blank spots here for names of people you can write down. But I would encourage you, for some of us, maybe you need to write down a whole group of people. Someone you put kind of outside your circle. Like, oh, I need to pray for this whole group of people. But for a lot of you, I would encourage you, write actual names down. Coworkers and neighbors, and family members and say, hey, I want to pray for these people. I'm going to pray for an opportunity. Maybe it's in September. Maybe it's in January or February when we do it again. But I'm going to invite them with me to come to Alpha, and we can fill our heart with compassion, and then we actually make room for people who are far from God. For some of us, we don't even know 4 people who don't follow Jesus. Like, we have so gotten used to our cultural Christianity, and we just have all of our friends that go to church and all, and we don't even know our neighbors. And so I encourage you is how can you make room for these people? We'd love for you to partner with us with Alpha, but really fill your heart with compassion for people who are far from God.